Okay, well, first time I've done this in 3 years, so in person anyway. Okay, so when I was in year 9 one day, I was getting ready for an excursion. I was going to go and see snow for the first time, and I was having trouble getting organised, so my dad was helping me, get everything sorted out. And he said to me, Max, when you move out on your own, you're going to have to learn to do all this for yourself. And I remember I started to cry and I said, I don't think I'll ever be able to. See, I grew up in this tiny little country town called Orbost, about 400 kilometres out of Melbourne. And so going to university, moving out, it meant leaving everything that I knew behind and, travelling to Melbourne to go to university, eventually getting a place of my own. I mean, at the time, I found it extremely difficult to go on a 4-day school camp without falling to pieces. And so the idea of moving out on my own seemed totally impossible. I didn't cope well with new places or new people. I had severe anxiety, and I also found socialising really difficult. Now, at the time, I didn't know I was autistic. I didn't even really know what autism was. I just knew that I seemed to think and feel differently to most of my peers, and I didn't know why. So because I found a lot of things difficult back then, I ended up putting a lot of things in the too hard basket and thinking, I can't do this, or I can't do that, or this is not something that I'm going to be able to experience. But I was really lucky. I had a really fantastic mum and dad and some really special teachers who saw that maybe Max is not pushing himself as far as he could. And so they really encouraged me to really give things a go and to focus on what I really enjoyed and what I was good at, which was my writing. That's my special interest. I love to write. And so with the support of my parents and by focusing on my writing, I managed to graduate high school and get into university. But just a few months before I started uni, a couple of things happened at once. Firstly, I was diagnosed as autistic. Now, in a lot of ways, this was a relief because it was just great to finally have an answer. Why? Why do I feel differently? Why do I think differently? What is it with me? It was just great to finally be able to put a name to it all and say, oh, I have autism. That explains things. But at the same time, it also kind of became a scapegoat for every time anything went wrong with me, because the narrative surrounding autism this was in 2008, wasn't terribly positive. The other big thing that happened around that time was that my dad passed away, completely out of the blue. I sometimes wonder if he was on the spectrum. He certainly had some characteristics, and as we know, can run in families. But I guess I'll never know for sure, but maybe. And so not only did all that happen, but shortly afterwards I had to leave my family and my friends and the town where I'd spent my entire life and travel to Melbourne to live on campus at La Trobe University. And at the time I thought I'd last a few weeks and then drop out. I did not have high hopes that I would ever be finishing that uni course. But somehow managed to hang in there. My mum was absolutely amazing, just an absolute pillar of strength for me. She was always just a phone call away. Her support was absolutely essential. And before I knew it, 4 years had passed and I was graduating with a postgrad in journalism. And so I graduated and then... Thank you. And so I graduated and I thought, oh God, I have to get a job now. And because going to job interviews and all of that whole process seemed so insurmountable. It seemed like the scariest thing in the world. Now, around this time, because I love writing, I'd started to write about autism. Oh, wait, I'm supposed to be clicking. Never mind. All good. At the time, I'd started to write down some of my experiences about life with autism, or autistic life, in a blog, because that was what I loved to do. I loved to write. And as luck would have it, someone I went to school with read it and showed it to someone who worked at Asperger's Victoria. I think they're actually here today, I believe. Asperger's Vic? Yeah. Oh, there you are. Thank you. And so they got in touch with me and said, hey, we're running a group for autistic adults in a nearby suburb. And they invited me to that. And so I said, yeah, I'd love to come along. And at that group, I met a guy named Chris. Some of you might have heard of him. He was autistic like me, and he told me that he had this idea for a group called the I Can Network, and that it would be run by people on the spectrum for people on the spectrum, and that it would be about the strengths and talents of people on the spectrum, and it would be about what we can do and about building networks to allow us to achieve, rather than focusing on what we struggle with or on deficits. And immediately I thought, wow, I have to be a part of this, because what struck me so much was what a massive difference it would have made for me when I was in high school or in primary school if I'd had someone to tell me as a freshly diagnosed teenager, it's okay, it gets better, you're not broken, you're not defective, you are enough. And so for years I'd seen my... And so up until then, for nearly a decade, I'd seen my autism as only as a handicap. But getting to work with so many amazing autistics and meet so many other people who'd walked a similar life journey to me, I came to realize that it's not just about those struggles, it's not just about those deficits. There are also strengths and there are great qualities. And there are, it may have been the reason that I struggled with some things and found some things difficult, but it was also the thing that gave me my determination and that focus on my interests. And I'd been focusing so much on the negatives that I completely lost sight of the positives. I'd been judging a rose by its thorns. And so as I reached my 30s, for the first time in my life, I was beginning to really like and accept who I was, autism and all. Then the next big challenge came, cancer. I know this is a difficult subject for many of us, so I won't go too much into it, except to say I'm now 2 years cancer-free. I was reminded just how vital it is to have that support network, how invaluable it is to have a positive mindset, and that once again, I discovered that I was more resilient than I ever thought I could be. And so the reason I'm here today is that I really wanted to share this I can mindset that has helped me so much and taken me so far. Because that focus on our strengths, that is what takes you where you need to go in life. And every single one of you has strengths, I promise. And if you're not sure what your strengths are, they're usually the thing that you love the most, the thing that just makes your brain just light up like fireworks. And so today I work as a mentor, a speaker and a writer for the ICANN network. I've had the privilege of working with many amazing autistics, many of whom are here today. I live independently, I have a tertiary degree and a job. In other words, all the things that when I was in high school, I thought that I would never be able to do and I would never have. I didn't get there by overcoming my autism, I got there by embracing it. Thank you.